Imagine if, instead of Mace Windu being killed by Darth Sidious, the Jedi Master instead won the battle and defeated the Sith Lord. How would that change the course of the Clone Wars and the fate of the galaxy? We'll jump straight in during the intense lightsaber battle in Chancellor Palpatine's office. Kit Fisto, Anakin Kolar, and Saesee Tiin are dead, and Mace Windu is fiercely battling the Sith Lord. As one of the Jedi Order's greatest warriors, Mace was managing to hold his own against Darth Sidious. His Vapad technique, a form of lightsaber combat that harnessed his enemy's darkness against them, pushed Sidious to the edge. Sidious had not expected such a violent and strong attack from the Jedi Master. Though he had easily overpowered and killed the other Masters, Mace had proved to be much more of a challenge. Pushed to the brink, Sidious unleashed a final desperate storm of Sith lightning, but Windu, determined and unwavering, reflected it back at him. As young Anakin Skywalker watched on, torn between his loyalty to the Jedi and Darth Sidious's promises to save Padme from death. But unlike in the original timeline, Anakin Skywalker hesitated for a second longer. That second cost Darth Sidious his life. With the final stroke of his purple blade, Mace Windu struck the Sith Lord down. Sidious collapsed, his twisted features frozen in a silent scream. The Dark Lord of the Sith was no more. Mace and the Jedi had gone there to arrest him, but Sidious, in his hate and hubris, had chosen violence, and as a result he had been killed. As Palpatine's corpse hit the floor, Anakin's mind was a battlefield of emotions. He had nearly betrayed the Jedi to save Padme, but Mace Windu had been right. Palpatine had been manipulating him all along. Mace looked at Anakin and nodded, saying that by choosing the Jedi over Palpatine's lies, he had saved the galaxy. Despite not always seeing eye to eye with Skywalker, Mace recognized and empathized with Anakin's pain, telling him that the dark side could not grant him what he sought. But perhaps the Jedi could help. Anakin, overwhelmed, surrendered himself to Windu's judgment. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Order 66 was transmitted, but it was Palpatine's vizier, Mas Ameda, who made the call. He had known Sidious's plans, and he knew that if the Empire was to be eventually formed, then the Jedi Order needed to be wiped out. So he made the decision to execute Order 66. But something was wrong. With Sidious dead, many clones were unsure whether they should follow the Order or not. It was only supposed to be Palpatine that could give these special orders, not his vizier. Some clone officers still followed their orders, turning on Jedi generals, but without centralized Sith leadership, confusion spread through the ranks. Many Jedi died that day, but not nearly as many as in the original timeline. The Order was battered and shaken, but they were not broken. Anakin and several other Jedi contacted many of the clone commanders to try to counter Order 66. Commander Rex, Captain Cody, and many other clones had already begun to question their actions. Some even resisted, causing further fragmentation within the Republic's military. Anakin's message was completely at odds with Mas Ameda's orders, which only added to the confusion of the situation. Ultimately, the clones who resisted were able to convince the others that Order 66 was not an order that they should be following. Clones were amazing and adaptable soldiers, but they preferred very clear instructions, especially when these were executive orders. Without Sidious, the grand design of the Sith unraveled. Plo Koon led a squad of clones to go and arrest Mas Ameda. While he was an opinionated and outspoken chagrined politician, he ultimately went quietly, openly admitting to his part in Palpatine's plot. In fact, Ameda provided the council with a lot of information that they didn't already have, rocking them to their cores. Palpatine had manipulated the entire war from the very beginning, and his future plans were horrifying. In fact, the construction of a battle station had already started over Geonosis. This was something that the Jedi immediately shut down, fearing its destructive capabilities once it was completed. When it came to the Senate, the Jedi turned to the previous Chancellor, Finis Valorum. He had ruled for many years, and while he wasn't the most strong-willed of chancellors, he was amiable, peaceful, and experienced of all politicians. He would fill the void left by Palpatine and help keep the Senate on course. Valorum was certainly going to have a hard task on his hands, but with the help of the Jedi and many sympathetic senators, the Senate would be okay and remain intact. As for the Jedi Council themselves, Yoda was shaken from his failure to stop Sidious earlier. The Sith Lord had been right there under their noses for decades, and Yoda, the most powerful and insightful of all Jedi Masters, had failed to notice it. As such, Yoda decided to step down from the position of Grandmaster of the Order. His colleagues asked him not to, but Yoda, now doubting his abilities, wanted to take a backseat role. But that begged the question, who would fill the role of Grandmaster? Several Jedi were considered, including Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and even Anakin Skywalker, but Mace Windu was ultimately the Jedi who was unanimously chosen as the new Grandmaster. He had not only fought and defeated the Sith Lord, but he also had Yoda's blessing. He would make the perfect Grandmaster, steering the Jedi into a bright new future free of the Sith. Unlike Yoda's more passive approach, Windu took a decisive stance. He wanted to end the Clone Wars, and would do so by any methods necessary. He led Jedi-led military strikes against the last Separatist leaders, personally cutting down General Grievous in battle. The Separatist Council soon fell apart, and the CIS drifted into nothingness. There was no big last stand, no dramatic final battle, but the war started to just run out of steam, fizzling out with many of the planets that left the Republic opting to join it once more, under the new, more stable regime. With Anakin at his side, Windu also sought out Count Dooku's former apprentice-turned-bounty hunter, Asajj Ventress. She had proven to be a dangerous enemy, and had killed many Jedi herself, but she had been betrayed by the Sith, after which she focused more on becoming a better person. Well, maybe not a better person, but certainly a less evil person. So when Mace and Anakin finally tracked her down in a cantina on Ord Mantell, instead of destroying her, they offered her a chance at redemption. Her struggles were a mirror of Anakin's struggles. She accepted, becoming a more morally flexible Jedi agent under Windu's command. It wasn't the most popular of choices among the Jedi, but it was better to have someone with her power and skills on the side of the Jedi rather than going rogue and working against them. With Sidious gone, the Galactic Senate was freed from his control. Bail Organa and Mon Mothma worked with the Jedi and Chancellor Valorum to restore democracy and peace between the Republic and the Separatists. The scars of war remained, and they would not heal quickly or easily. Eventually, though, a most robust and accepting Republic was formed, one where every system, no matter how big, small, major, or minor, every system had an equal say, something that had never have happened had Palpatine still been in control of the Senate. The Jedi, under Windu's rule, reformed into a stronger, more pragmatic force, one that was less blinded by tradition and more prepared for future threats. Yes, the Jedi still had their own issues, but that was something that they learned to reflect on. The entire Order had not seen the threat that was right in front of them, and in the wake of Sidious's death, they could reflect on that. Their arrogance and short-sightedness had nearly cost them everything, and they were determined never to let that happen again. And with Windu at the helm, there would be no chance of that. Anakin, though still haunted by his fears of Padme's death, remained a Jedi. Windu, recognizing his emotional struggles, assigned Obi-Wan Kenobi to be his guide and mentor once more. Yes, they were still master and apprentice, but they were more than that. They were true brothers. Anakin could finally talk to Obi-Wan about every aspect of his life, including his love for Padme. It might not have been the traditional Jedi way, but Mace's new order was more accepting of it. And thankfully, without the Empire's rise, Padme Amidala lived, giving birth to Luke and Leia in a galaxy where they wouldn't have to hide. With Darth Sidious dead and Vader never truly born, the Sith were, for the first time in 1,000 years, truly defeated. However, Windu knew that darkness never fades completely. Some whispered of other Sith lurking in the unknown regions. Others warned that the greed and corruption of politicians could still doom the Republic. Always in motion, the future is. But under the rule of Grandmaster Mace Windu, the Jedi would be ready. For the first time in generations, the Force was truly in balance. For now.